Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our first Revolutionary African Women Chat, our first Raw Chat. So glad you were able to join us. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you for
everyone.
supporting.
Thank you. No problem.
Yes, and we have Baba Mukasa with us, helping us to launch our first Raw Chat, our first AWRU Raw Chat. And so we're going to be ready to take it off. And this session, we're going to still hold a tribute to Women's Month, but we're going to talk more about that and our tribute to Mama Miriam Makeba later in the podcast. But welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for joining us. All right,
So I am Moya Mzuri Pambili, organizer and former Central Committee member for the All African People's Revolutionary Party and coordinator for the All African Women's Revolutionary Union. I've been in the party for over 40 years, so I'm giving thanks to the longevity that Pan-Africanism keeps me young and keeps me active. So giving thanks to that community organizer locally in my community, on the Support for Haiti Coalition and the Congo Support Committee and the U.S. Hands Off of Cuba. So giving thanks for our continued work and action. And my co-host is Sister Halimatu.
hey, greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight if you're in my area in Germany, and good afternoon to those in the West Coast. So just a bit about myself. I am also a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. I was born in Ghana, but my family and I have lived in multiple places, including Nigeria, etc. And right now I'm completing my master's in composite material engineering. And one of the things that made me passionate about joining an organization such as the AAPRP was my drive to contribute to not just to Ghana, but the conditions, to contribute to the improvement of the conditions of Africans and oppressed people globally. So yeah, just a bit about me. And yeah, so again, welcome to our first Raw Chat.
Right. And one of the reasons why are we doing this Raw Chat? So, what we wanted to do is we have that first slide you saw was the Revolutionary African Women Facebook page. And we've been working on the website, which we already have had up for at least probably a good 8 years. And we really haven't been that active on the website, but we wanted to start having a chat since during the pandemic, everybody is doing these live chats, and we wanted to kind of share some of the events that are going on in Africa from a Pan-African perspective. We wanted to have a casual format so that we could talk to the community about issues that face our youth and our worldwide Pan-African community, but also from an intergenerational perspective. I'm an elder cadre. Halimatu is a pre-cadre younger sister in the movement. So we can kind of come from that perspective. And occasionally we want to do this monthly, just a 30-minute chat, but we want to also have special guests. So we wanted to offer some of the special guests, some of the Pan-Africanists in the movement, like Baba Mukasa, who's joining us today. But we also want to say that we don't want to just talk about what's going on in the world. We don't want to talk about the problems, but we also want to talk about the solutions. So we want to, always encourage folks, if you are not in an organization, we've got to be organized. We can't talk about solutions if we're not organized, if we don't unite. So we want to encourage everybody to join an organization. If you don't want to join the All African People's Revolutionary Party, join some other organizations that are out there. And there are a number of organizations, but there's less than 1% of Africans worldwide that are in these organizations. We need unity. We need organized Africans on the ground. So let's get organized, y'all.
All right, yeah, let's get organized. Thank you. All right, so as Sister Mzuri mentioned, we want to just have some, want to talk about some of the issues that are happening globally. So we're going to start the chat off with the current event. So the first current event, I think something that's been I've seen a lot of news outlet cover is the recent ban on the face veil, specifically in that has taken place now in Switzerland. Of course, Switzerland's not the first countries. Other European countries have banned this face veil. And of course, many people have pointed out some of the issues with that, including xenophobia, Islamophobia, and racism, and of course, the sexism and so forth. I wanted to sort of approach this specifically with, I think, sort of the hypocritical aspect of sort of what this ban really entails. And I want to start by just quoting the chairman of the Swiss Party, People's Party, which is the conservative party that actually proposed this, was he said, "Our traditions in Switzerland required the face to be shown. This is a sign of our fundamental freedoms." So I think this is a very interesting quote because it's a little bit not a little bit, very contradictory when you read it. So on one hand, you're saying that, okay, this is a sign of freedom, but then you're imposing, you're forcing someone to do something against that they may not want to do. So it begs the question, what exactly does freedom mean to you, right? And not specifically just anyone, you're imposing how you feel specifically. Let's be honest, this veil, yes, it's called a face veil, you can try to hide it. No, it applies, no, it's specifically targeting a group, specifically women, right? It's targeting specifically and immigrants, exactly. So the other, I mean, let's be honest, you're seeing these people, women, the control, it ties in, yeah, systems. Please feel free to join in anytime. You're targeting immigrant, specifically immigrant women you feel are the other. And you, to me, when we even tying back to what some people have already mentioned, the sexism, you want to control how women choose to present themselves. And the question is that your definition of freedom? Right. Questionable, right?
Right. And I mean, we know it's anti-Islamic, right?
Yeah.
As well, because it's like, what do you have to say about, the Jewish traditions where they wear the big hats, and they have, the big beards and whatnot, you don't see a ban on that, and you have other more Christian religions that have certain traditions, but you don't see any bans on that. This is anti-immigrant, it's racist, and it's anti-Islamic. We already know that.
Mm-hmm. And it is following just a pattern. I mean, let's not just put Switzerland on the hotspot. Other countries like France, Belgium, Bulgaria, etc., are following suit. As they're sort of a counter to what they feel like the other. Oh, we're getting more people from the continent, from Asia, etc. Whoa, ooh, and it's interesting, and I think. And also, actually, System Zero, you reminded me to mention this. There was the EU does have a ban. They call it overall a religious symbol ban, but companies can ban people, anyone that has anything that's like has a quote unquote a religious symbol. But one of the biggest ones, of course, the scarf, women that wear the veil. That is one of the biggest people that are affected. And of course, people consider this as the Scarface. So your companies are allowed to say, no, you can't wear that. Interesting. So you see these patterns. So it's very interesting that the anti-other, the anti-immigrant, and in this case, even women, in my opinion, because again, when we're talking about the West wanting to proclaim that, oh, we are for freedom of women, and we chastise other countries that oppress women. And yet, is this not your version? Is this not you? Is this not you then oppressing women? And actually, that ties in really nicely to our next current event. I'm sure a lot of people have heard. Actually, one thing I do want to cover, I know a lot of people, there's sometimes a confusion on what exactly the difference is between the different coverings. And the ban specifically said it covers a burqa and a niqab. And there's a slight difference where the niqab did eyes are shown, but interestingly, there is actually no one in Switzerland or actually in all those countries that wear the burqa. So the burqa ban is a little bit weird considering that it's incorporated in it when no one actually wears it. And for example, studies even show that the niqab only in Switzerland about up to 37 women wear it. It's very fascinating. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So just tying into our next event, or current event, excuse me, is the new president of Tanzania. So the current president just passed away, and the VP has become the new president, Samia Hassan. She is the first female president, and also she was the first female VP. So this is a huge historical moment for Tanzania and exciting. And she's amongst some of the few and Eastern African states have had female head of states, right? And that's what I love about this story. You would sometimes we tend to look at Europe as, oh, the solutions for, oh, we can get ideas for how to empower women and so forth from other Western nations and stuff like that, when we ourselves are solving our own issues, like you said, System Zero, we are the solutions to our own problems. And I think
Right.
this the current event really shows that. Yep.
Not only that, she is like, she's from the Zanzibar area. So, she's kind of reflecting the unity of Zanzibar and Tanzania. And she's Muslim. She's not, Christian. So she's so different, but yet the people have, embraced her as a part of the ticket was as vice president, and now she is president. So that we wish her all the luck, all the support,
Exactly.
all that we can offer to support her. And we encourage all of the African nations and the Caribbean nations, and wherever Africans are, to give their support to this sister and to Tanzania.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So
Got a
just
little
to
bit
end on
more on
that, yeah, just so this is just a little bit more on her. I do encourage people to look her up. She does have a very fascinating background, and I just love this, for us. And it's just, and like you mentioned, I think this does show that we are, like, she was, welcome. She is visibly Muslim, but the country consists of different beliefs, as well as different tribes coming together, and that's what Pan-Africanism is all about. She's a
Right,
representation, in my opinion, of what Pan-Africanism can be.
right.
Right. So yeah, just any last thing. So that's the current events. All right. So we will move on to the main topic, our tribute to Miriam Makeba.
Yes, yes. So we have here Baba Mukasa, and I can see him on the phone. He's on his cell phone talking to somebody. But I saw Baba Mukasa in the documentary. I just saw a little glimpse of him as I was watching a documentary on Miriam Makeba. And so I asked him if he would join us as we give kind of a closing Women's Month, if we give a tribute to him. And just for those folks who don't know Baba Mukasa, in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the Student National Coordinating Committee, which they changed their name to, he was the field secretary, one of the field secretaries for SNCC in the late 50s and the early 60s. And you might know him as Willie Ricks. You'll see him on Eyes on the Prize. You'll see him in other documentaries around civil rights movement. He was always known as one of the most active, orators and rebel rousers in the movement in down south. And Baba Mukasa was also a member of the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, which was the one that helped Fannie Lou Hamer really helped to bring into fruition after they got kicked out of the Democratic Party's convention. And so they formed the party that had they had to get a symbol, and that was the symbol they chose was the Black Panther. So that was like the first Black Panther party. So this is who Baba Mukasa is. He was also, I knew him when I joined the All African People's Revolutionary Party, because he was one of the first ones to call for Black power, and he called, he had the crowd riled up as the Reverend of the movement, because he was one to always rile up the crowd and get them excited. He started calling for Black power, Black power. So we welcome him, Baba Mukasa, who's the man that called for Black power and Pan-Africanism. So Baba Mukasa, we introducing you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How everybody doing today?
Good, good.
Good.
Good. So we're just talking about your role in the civil rights and the Black Power movement and Pan-Africanism, and the fact that you always rallied up the people to organize and to know who they were, and that you did more than just being in the civil rights movement. You started traveling throughout Africa, and you started organizing for African people, even in Africa, even in Central and South America. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Good.
Thank you.
Good, good. So we're doing this tribute to Sister Miriam Makeba, and so we invited you because I said I had seen you in the documentary, you and Baba Sekou, when Miriam Makeba and Kwame Ture got married, and they went to Guinea. So I wanted to welcome you and ask you to be a part of our discussion. Of what you remember of Miriam Makeba. I know we had talked a little bit about her, and folks can look her up and find out all of the work that she did, but she was more than just a singer, right? She was an activist, right?
Yeah, I knew her as a freedom fighter.
Okay.
And that could sing.
Okay.
But she was a freedom fighter. And I met her physically, I think, in 1965 when John Lewis and Foreman and some other SNCC people went to the United Nations and kicked the door down and went in, and we physically roughed up the South African embassy.
That was when she was actually one of the first ones to speak against apartheid in South Africa, right?
Yeah, she was at the United Nations somewhere. I mean, somewhere up there. And
so
then
y'all went in there and decided to beat up the South Africans, right?
Yeah, and we demand the freedom of Mandela and Robert Sobukwe.
Okay. All
and
right.
we united our movement with South Africa, and Zania, as we call it now.
Right.
And that our organizations united. And at that time, Miriam Makeba had escaped from South Africa. And when she escaped, she joined all the liberation movements and spoke up for them and gave them energy. And that, so when she came here, we got her and took her and toured her around the country and what have you. And later, her and Kwame, I think a couple of years later, got married.
Right.
But Miriam Makeba was a key person to talk about the liberation of South Africa and looked at the crimes they were committing against our people in South Africa. But at the same time, she was a woman freedom fighter. So all the liberation movements respected her. And we made a link with Angola, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, the PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple. And then we made
and PDG, right?
Oh, the PDG. We made direct contact with Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Toure, and they became the strategists and the ones that we looked up to in their philosophy and ideology. And Miriam Makeba was on a day-to-day basis with Nkrumah and Sekou Toure, but she was also a great image for African freedom fighters to liberate Africa. Right. And then after she married Kwame, at one point, we were all in Guinea together, and we hung out. We did different little things with Sekou Toure, and moved around with Sekou Toure, and at different little programs, and at the presidential palace, Sekou Toure had us up in there, and what have you, and that Miriam Makeba told Sekou Toure that I had a fantasy for Lumumba in the Congo. And when I went, when Sekou Toure gave me a diplomatic job to go to Uganda and invite Idi Amin to come to Guinea.
Wow.
And so
now,
I
why
went.
Was that?
So it was great. And I went to the Congo, and we were welcomed by the Guinea embassy and stayed in the Guinea embassy and what have you. And I met different people in the Congo, and then met some of Lumumba's people and what have you. And then I went to Uganda, and then Kwame and Miriam Makeba, they came later. and we all was a guest of Idi Amin and did many.
Now let's stop for a minute, because most people have this image that Idi Amin is somebody, some terrible person, and he had all these atrocities. Tell us just a minute, why were y'all embracing Idi Amin, and why was Idi Amin embracing y'all? What do we have in common?
Well, what he had in common, I don't know some of the things that he did or didn't do, but I do know that he kicked the white folks out and took the land and gave it back to the Africans and told them this is not your land, and put them on airplanes and send them to Europe and send the Indians back to Europe or India, wherever they wanted to go, and gave Uganda back to the Africans and said Africa is for the Africans.
All right.
And then he bought Africans from different parts of the world. I know me and Stokely and Miriam Makeba and others came there, and he gave us all passport. They gave us some land in Uganda and what have you. And Idi Amin, when Africa was fighting Zionism in Egypt, he was on the front line up there with guns fighting. And that he took the Zionist embassy and gave it to the Palestinians. And him and Muammar Gaddafi were good friends and whatever, and he was a friend of Africa. And just think, if all the Africa would have the nerves to tell the Europeans to get out, run them out, or however they get them out, and give Africa back to the Africans, we would be in another place today.
That's right. That's right.
And also, I was in Liberia with Miriam Makeba and the guest of the president there, and that was very good. And
wow. So y'all traveled around and did all this Pan-African work, building unity.
That's what Miriam Makeba did. Miriam Makeba, she caused trouble in the United States. They had anyway, I don't know all the different problems, but she began to just be invited to all the different African countries, and she would be greeted by each president.
Wow.
Or if she went to a liberated zone, she'd be presented by the liberated zone leaders. So she was an African symbol, African image, and that she was fighting for the liberation of Africa, and especially with the liberation zone, South Africa being one of them. And even when her mother died, she couldn't go back to the funeral because of her liberation philosophy and activities. So Miriam Makeba was a very strong African, and she worked in every country she traveled in and worked for the liberation of Africa. And she worked with the PAC in South Africa, and the Black Conscious Movement, and all the liberation movements that work for African and work for Pan-Africanism. And she encouraged African unity, and she encouraged Pan-Africanism, and she encouraged African women to be warriors and to be strong and what have you. And so her and Sally Mugabe in Zimbabwe, and there are many, many others that we could look up to that have worked for Africa tireless from the time they became conscious to the time they die or exit from Earth.
Right. Wow. That is a beautiful, beautiful tribute. And that's just so glowing, especially for a woman during that period of time. She must have been really, really strong and determined, right?
Well, she was a strong African warrior, and that I know she was much stronger than me. And I was able to go and all over Africa, and even right here when we toured the United States, she was speaking. You know, I would get the mic and speak and what have you, and talk about African unity. And matter of fact, one time she was in Uganda, and I got up before a crowd to speak, and that I made this great speech, and one of the people jumped up and said, "A young man, what's your name?" I said, "Willie Ricks." And they said, "No, that's not your name. You're African. Your name is Mukasa." And the whole auditorium started saying, "Mukasa, Mukasa, Mukasa."
What?
And that's how I got the name Mukasa.
Named you on the spot.
Yeah, gave it to me on the spot. And Idi Amin thought that was great. He called me Mukasa, and from that day on, Kwame and Miriam Makeba and all of them called me, and Hugh Masekela, was there too, and all of them called me Mukasa, and that's how I got my African name. And I was able to enjoy many gatherings and dinners and and just different little travels with Miriam Makeba that didn't mean a whole lot then in that sense of the word. But when you think back, it was great and good. I enjoyed some of her, even her cooking, and I knew her daughter Bunchy and what have you. So it was all
Wow.
great and all good.
Wow.
Miriam Makeba was an African warrior, and
Yeah.
I've been able into her and knowing her and Ella Baker and Miss Hamer and many others, by knowing them, and has drawn the strongest African women like yourself, have drawn them ideologically and historically together. And so we've been able to meet some of the stronger revolutionary women around the world. I even married one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And so,
Wow.
and I was in a party with a whole bunch of them, and in SNCC and all that. Excuse me, but the freedom fighters and the strongest women of all tend to be freedom fighters and tend to be ideologically leaning toward Africa, leaning toward socialism. And most all the women seem to love Kwame Nkrumah and love Sekou Touré, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, Robert Mugabe, Sobukwe, and other freedom fighters that I have to say Amilcar Cabral. But in other freedom fighters, we get to love these women just by being strong and warriors and being on the front line. And I think all the male freedom fighters that's out there fighting today, they're out there because of the women. They don't
Wow.
like the condition that we find our women in. We know that they're supposed to have silver and gold and everything good on this earth, food, education, medicine, and not be exploited in no form or fashion. And this is what encouraged us to go out and fight and put our lives on the line. And when they bring out their dogs, their guns, their bombs, and whatever, it don't scare us. We move forward because
That's
we are here for our loving women and the children that they bear and the earth and the land that they come from. And our job is to go and fight for that and move forward with it and make the world a little better than it was, a little stronger than it was, make the revolution a little stronger than it was when we were born. And as we
Yes.
go out, we can say that we did our part and we worked in the liberation movements and encouraged many that would come after us to carry on.
Wow. That you said it all. You said it all. You thank you so much, Baba. I mean, just listening to you and listening to all of the work that was done, I think that we think that that African people, no matter where they are, can't make a difference. But y'all showed just regular people that we can not only have a voice for our liberation, but we can actually help create unity amongst us and foster up and inspire not only the present, but the future generations.
When you were
So
a young girl, when you was a young lady coming into the party, very few people that would call ourselves Africa, and the very few people would want to talk about Africa or be proud of Africa. And we went and we did a massive education. And today around the world, you don't find too many people that say, I'm not an African.
That's right.
And they're proud of it. And they don't believe the lies that they have put out there about Africa's a jungle and all this kind of stuff. And crazy lies that they have spread it. But we're now digging and looking for our history. And as we get that history, make us strong and strong and stronger and move us forward. So we are, us brothers are on the front line and we're doing our thing. But Miriam Makeba used to like to say, and she would laugh, that the African woman know how to ride in the back seat and drive the car.
I love it.
That was one of her sayings.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Baba. We're going to close out the program now. We want to, we are so inspired with all your words and the history that you share with us. And so we just want to thank you, Madasi Pa, Asante Sana, Amasa Jinalo, all the thank yous. Halimata, you have anything in closing?
Yeah, just so many thanks. That I grew up listening to Miriam Makeba, and just to hear that is just
So thank you so much. Just so eye-opening. So thank you so much, Baba Mukasa, for because yeah. So thank you so much. I really Madasi again as well. And Nagode from the House of People. So thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much. And I'm very happy to have me a little Miriam Makeba as my wife and have two little Miriam Makeba as a son and a little Kwame Ture, a Sekou Ture, Kwame Nkrumah as a son. So Miriam Makeba and all those folks influenced me.
Yeah, and we send love to the family. Tell my auntie that we love her and we miss her. And tell all my nephews and nieces I love them and miss them, and we'll see each other soon. And we gonna close it out now. We saying forward ever, backwards never.
I'm very nice, Shimaringa.
Forward ever, backwards never. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, forward ever.
Forward ever, backwards never. Amanda!
Away to.
Amanda!
Away to.
All right.